Assalamualaikum and hello. I'm Izan Satrina Muhammad Sallehuddin. I'm the former founding CEO of Cultural Economy Development Agency, a government agency under the Ministry of Finance and Ministry of Communications and Multimedia. And now I'm the Senior Director of Think City, taking lead in partnerships and creative sector, whilst providing stewardship in communications. A wholly owned company of Khazanah National Berhad and supported by Yayasan Hasanah, Think City was established in 2009 as an impact organization to create more sustainable and equitable places for the benefit of all. Our knowledge, skills, and strategies focus on urban solutions, the environment, social communities, and the cultural economy. So I'm really thrilled to be doing this session, especially when my heart remains strongly with the arts. In my years of work, I have been honored to work with many amazing colleagues and partners. I have fundraised for organizations, projects, and arts in general. I have been a grant maker and even a grant giver. So I do hope you find this session useful, with gratitude to the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture, National Department for Culture and Arts, JKKN, as I take you through some basic considerations in getting to know your ecosystem. This session aims to value add and contribute to your skills and knowledge in your fundraising journey, in addition to helping you develop a practical strategy at the same time. You may find resources available here, giving you a range of concepts on understanding private sector support, becoming fundraising ready, developing a fundraising plan, building a case for support, and creating meaningful relationships for life. So hey, in any type of business or sector, it is paramount to know your ecosystem and how it functions. Once you familiarize yourself with the different ecosystem players, only can you then be able to fundraise effectively, whether in a monetary or non-monetary format. Yes, it is not always about the money, but also in some instances, other forms of partnerships. Monies here comes either in the form of a grant or a sponsorship, and a grant here, financial award given to you, whether you are an emerging or established artist, so as an individual, or whether you have formed a collective. And I mention this here because our sector is generally an informal sector, and many work in such a way as a freelancer and as a group of collaborators. You can also perhaps receive as an organization, whether you may have registered your organization under Register of Companies, for example, Sindar and Berhad, Register of Business, which is a partnership, or society as a persatuan for a specific purpose. Now, grants can be for program support, general operating and expenditure, and more. The grant may have restrictions on it, including reimbursement clause that requires the grantee to carry out the specific purpose using the grantee's money first prior to the money being provided to you. Now, grants are usually active for a year or more. You may notice multi-year type of grants available, pending yearly milestone performance. Yes, they need to make sure you are performing, and those milestones are agreed by both your partner and yourself. Grants are usually provided by governments, whether it's local or federal, private and public foundations, and at times, individual donors. A sponsorship now is an exchange of financial support of an event for marketing. As an example, when you get a sponsorship, you may have to exhibit their logos on your theater show, advertisement promotions, logo placement, and more. Now, you would also have to provide ticket allocations to them as well, name recognition as a presenter on all invitations, collateral materials, amongst others. A sponsorship is usually one-off for a single event, or perhaps a series of events, and sponsorships are generally offered by for-profit businesses. It's key to remind yourself that it's not always about you, but it's also about your partner. So what would they like to achieve? Is it impact, visibility, alignment in community development? So whilst you are clear what motivates you to do your art, spend time to understand what motivates your partner. So big picture, you will need to be aware when you comb through your ecosystem that there are various players. This may include federal government departments and agencies, local government departments and agencies, and what I mean here are like state governments. Now, there's also corporate foundations, cultural foundations, international funding, incentives and subsidies. Now, this is usually offered by the government. It could be corporate tax deduction, for example, private patrons, and these are all key as they provide grants or sponsorship as mentioned earlier on. Examples of grants here include organizational, of which what's funded includes core staff hires, office or studio rent, equipment, amongst others. Now, this is absolutely important in the sustainability of the organization, but rarely provided by funders. So if you find some organizations who do that, you should really look into it. What's also rare is mobility funding. Now, that helps support your flights, per diem to participate in a festival, trade market to sell, particularly in international markets. However, what is common across all these partners when you comb through is actually project funding. Now, examples of project funding may include capacity building, creation, production, presentation, participation, research, market, and audience development. They are generally shorter in terms of duration, whilst varies in terms of grant size. Now, from a local lens, you can look at scanning at various partners. For example, here you have a list of organizations of a local, from the all local side. For example, Think City, where I work at. Our collaborator, Yayasan Hasana. There's also Yayasan Saim Darby, Yayasan Telekom Malaysia, CIMB Foundation, Maybank Foundation, Crador Foundation, NXO Foundation, HIO Foundation, Christian Jet. Now, if you look at the government side, there is also a variety of organizations here under the government. There is the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture that also runs their own grant programs, and their local agencies also run their own programs. There is Chandana, the Cultural Economy Development Agency, and also Matrade, which looks into international markets. Now, other ministries also offer their own grants. It's worth looking through. For example, MITI, Ministry of International Trade. Another consideration for you, really, is to look at signing up for sector updates, whether it is My Dance Alliance, Kakisani, and Eccentrica. There's also BASKL, baskl.com.my. So let's take a few steps back and look at an international lens. You can look here from various partners, the Asian Cultural Council, there's also Arts Network Asia, CSREP Foundation, Fukuoka Asian Art Museum, Japan Foundation Art Center, there's also the Korea Foundation for Advanced Studies. Look, foreign embassies, very key for also your flights and also collaboration. Australia Asian Council, the Prince Claus Foundation, Commonwealth Foundation. Look, don't forget to also sign up for sector updates internationally, whether it is with the Asia Europe Foundation, Arts Equator, Gig Life Pro, and ArtRes. So in addition to funders, what's key is also being aware of other aspects of the ecosystem. Some of the considerations here include networks. Now, networks here provide you the opportunities to learn, connect, exchange knowledge, and expand your horizons, whether it's locally or internationally. Another aspect is, of course, media. Media, whether it's mainstream, online, or otherwise, those platforms are key to help provide you the promotion you need to get your product or service out. Another key aspect, which I am also very fond of and always attend, are actually convergence points or trade markets or even conferences. Now, at any time of the year, there are very significant platforms that you should attend. Be mindful of that and plan early. Now, another consideration is, of course, associations. Associations, whether it's locally or internationally, is key for you to expand your horizons. Now, look at which associations or markets you'd like to get into. Other opportunities I would like for you to look out is residencies. They also include fellowship, mentorship, or exchanges. Also consider crowdfunding. Yes, I know it's kind of new, but it's also key if you have brand value and presence. Your public and followers will also want to contribute to what you're doing. Also look into social media. It's all connected to crowdfunding and also mainstream media and online media. Connect. Your followers want to hear your story. Look, I know this might be overwhelming for some of you, but don't worry. Maybe just focus on a few things. Maybe just focus on top 3 partners, whether it's locally or internationally, and connect with them. Just focus on your top 3. Now, whilst many grants are awarded based on merit, the other thing you should consider is to not discount funders or partners who provide grants based on relationship. Yeah, I know it's not so popular, but it's also key. It's the sometimes I know you sort of relationship that also gets you across the line. Therefore, be sure to connect and gain their trust in the work that you do. I tend to ensure being familiarized with the top 3 partners to work with, familiarize myself with their terms of reference, processes, and the people behind it. In addition, I also try to be strategic in terms of what platforms I need to be attending to network with these partners. The other option for you to consider is the corporate tax deduction that's available in Malaysia or other incentives available regionally to encourage participation from your partners. So you may know that partners come in various shapes and sizes in terms of the grant amount and are most likely motivated and inspired by you and your work. So don't be intimidated. Your passion and sincerity in your work will most likely drive their interest to you. So be clear and be ready when engaging your partners. Make sure you're prepared. So before a meeting, do your research. Understand your partner's values. Get to know their strategic priorities. Read up on their grant and sponsorship terms of reference. And familiarize yourself with their processes and timeline. Now, here's a tip, because a common mistake made by some of you is that sometimes one does not read the terms of reference. And what happens is that you would have prepared a proposal, a blanket proposal for all your partners, not skewing it according to your partner's priorities. So please bear that in mind, and also please be prudent in asking for budgets, because partners prefer to see joint involvement from both parties, which means you and your partner funding it together. Don't expect to be funded 100%. So here's a checklist. Project description. Pack a punch in your project description. Not too many words. We don't want to read too many things, just the best ones. Then partners will read your opening statements and decide whether to keep reading or not. Secondly, objectives. Be sure to tell a great story and be clear on your objectives. Make sure it's specific, measurable, and most importantly, achievable. So don't overpromise the world to them. Thirdly, what are you here for? You want partners to be here for the same thing. Fourthly, who is driving it? Because really, partners invest in talent. So be sure to articulate the team behind the project and possibly include pictures and list of work and press articles to give them a sense of color of what the team is like. In your specifics, make sure you also include your time frame, your project dissemination plan, i.e., what are you marketing? Who are you marketing to? That's a really good question, right? Who is the work for? Now, give your partner all the data you have collected on impact and reach historically. But I know it may be difficult. Don't try to appeal to everyone because you may not have that sort of data, but just try. Demonstrate integrity and credibility by knowing your audience and outline how you plan to keep them and engage them. Testimonials from your guests and your customers are always good here. Budget. Now, it's vital you know exactly how much money you need, why you need it, and what the results will be. Remember, I said not all funders will fund you 100%. So be as specific as possible. Share exactly how much money you'd like to raise and how it will be spent. Also, be sure to list your partners that you've been securing to date or whether you're working on it. Whether it's monetary or non-monetary, everything counts. It displays your capacity to actually engage partners. Also attach supporting documents. So like I said earlier, attach some press articles, attach your work, visuals, and concept paper if you like. Don't go crazy with it. Don't send a folder of it. Something concise will do. So here are some tips. What do you want to raise? I find this truly one of the key questions in a proposal because generally what we receive as funders is a budget for everything that you're doing. That's good, but we want to know what you need from us as a grant giver. So you need to plan your finances. Again, as I said earlier, use historical data. You should be able to see a pattern in your works and your work's returns. Now, what do I mean here? For example, you may have typically sold tickets to your show and you usually would sell, say, X number of tickets and it covers 60% of your expenditure, but you still have a gap of 40%. So that's where you really need help on. So perhaps when you approach your partner, you're probably trying to sell tickets to them, to send students to fill the theater show, and that will address your gap. So on this point really is for you to determine your gap. So when you know your gap, it's easier for you to be clear in your proposal. Another thing is to use simple language. Now, simple language is very key in articulating your proposal because most of the time when we see proposals, it can be really abstract and it's really hard to evaluate it. Remember, not all of your partners will have a background in the arts, but they are responsible in evaluating it. I know a lot of us are not too familiar with administrative processes, but if you're not good at it, speak to a friend. See how your friend can help you complete the paperwork because there's no such thing as free money and you still need to complete your paperwork. And with money comes responsibility. You need to administer and be accountable for it and track it. So have you ever been in a situation where you don't know what to say? You've lost your feet. It's quite common, so make sure you've got something to say in less than 30 seconds to sell your work to a new partner. Go. Now, as intimidating as this may be, the trick to landing the deal is to choose your words wisely so that your pitch packs the biggest punch possible. Don't overcomplicate, use simple language, be straightforward, personable, and most importantly, memorable. We want you to stick with that partner. So make sure you prepare what you're gonna say. And if you talk about your art, don't over talk it because your listeners' eyes may glaze over. So be sure to engage them, look into their eye, and use simple language. So here's a tip for you. Start writing that script and start writing and practicing it in front of a mirror for 30 seconds or less because what you want to translate here is a call for a meeting. So what's next? The sharing points are simple and most of the time quite logical, but always a challenge to apply. I know. But once you're organized yourself, in such a manner, things will come naturally to you. I hope this will inspire you to increase your knowledge and confidence in fundraising from different sources, connect with businesses and donors, and most importantly, build a relationship. Now, please be patient and persistent, but don't go to the point of annoying them as well. There's a fine line of being gracefully persistent. Now, don't also be upset if you have a rejection. Learn from it, understand why it's been rejected, and improve, and you can try again with the same partner or move on to your next target partner. I hope this serves you well. All the best and good luck.